20 essential Docker commands for beginners to start your Docker journey. In this particular tutorial, we will see the commands with the demo. The first command that I would like to go through is Docker version, which will show you the information about the version of all the Docker components installed on this machine. So what is the version of Docker engine, the Go version, Git version, etc., etc. So it will show you all of this information. The next, if there is another command, if you put dash dash version to the same command that we just ran, it will show us the CLI version. It is a short of the Docker version. Now, the next command that I would like to show is Docker info. This is one of the powerful command and it shows a lot more information. And what it does, it shows us the version of the Docker. It shows us what are the containers which are running, what are the total containers, what are running, paused, stopped, what are the images available. It also shows us if there are any volumes available. It also shows us the network which is available. It shows us the operating system where the Docker is running, what is the memory available to the machine, what are the CPUs available to the machine. So it shows us a lot more information. So Docker info is a system-wide information about the Docker installation. The next command that we would like to see is Docker help, which will give you the help for the Docker command. So this is the help for the Docker commands. Now, if you want to get the images which are available locally, what are the images which are available, Docker images which are available on your machine, you can run a command called Docker images, and looks like we don't have any images on our machine. If you want to search for a particular image, then you can search for that particular image using Docker search image. So let's say Docker search Ubuntu, which will go to the Docker hub and it will search for all the available Ubuntu images. And now if you want to pull this image, then we can say Docker pull Ubuntu, which is going to go to the Docker hub and it's going to pull the latest Ubuntu image and it's going to install that particular image on this particular machine. So successfully downloaded. Now if we run the Docker images command, you can see we got an image called Ubuntu. So that's how you search for an image and you pull the image using Docker pull command. The next command that we would like to see is Docker RMI image. So if you want to get rid of this image, then you can run instead of pull, you will say RMI, which is going to remove that particular image. Now, if any of the container is using this particular image, then it will not get deleted. Then you'll have to use, and if you still want to get rid of it, you'll have to stop the container and use the -f option if the container is still present of that container. So -f will allow you to remove the image which is used by the container. The next command that we would like to see, now we are back to the same, we have pulled that image and we removed that image, which means we don't have any Docker image on our machine. The next command that I would like to show is Docker ps and Docker ps -a. Docker ps is list all running containers. Docker ps -a is list all containers, running containers, also including the stopped ones. Now we don't have, neither we have any running containers, neither we have any stopped containers. So if because we have literally no images, so neither we have any running containers, neither we have any running plus stopped containers, which we will revisit when we actually pull another Docker image, which we will see these commands again. If you want to run an container from an image, then you can say Docker run nginx. Now, when you want to run a container from an image and you want to give a custom name, by default, it will auto allocate a name for this particular image. Now, if you want to give a custom name, you can say Docker run -d -name, and you can give a name, and this is the image name. So you can do something like this, and this one will give this name to the running container. Now, you can also run the container in the detach mode, run minus D. So if you just said run docker run, it will take up your terminal. It will take up your terminal, and when you do the control C from that running terminal, it will stop the image. So if you want to run the image in the background or detach mode, you will say docker run minus D and the image, which will run the container in the background. And if you want to interactively run, where you will be attaching that image, instead of minus D, you will say minus it, which is interactive mode. And here it will start the docker, it will run the docker container, and it will also connect to that in an interactive mode, and it will allow you to run your specified command. So you basically, this is now the only problem is this with approach is that once you come out of that interactive mode, it will again stop, the docker will stop. So there is another method of running the commands within the container after it is detached, and that is docker exec. So docker exec will allow you to run the containers within your container interactively. So what you should be doing is you should be starting the docker in the background mode, and then you should be using the docker exec to run the commands in the interactive mode. So what we will do, so right now we don't have any images, so you can see docker image shows nothing. So what we are going to do, we are going to pull a nginx image. So docker pull nginx image. So we are going to pull this image, give it a few seconds for this particular image to download. Give it a few seconds and that's done. So we have now, if I run docker images, you will see that we have an image called nginx. Now, as I mentioned, if you just run docker run nginx, it's going to auto assign the name, and it's also going to take this terminal. It's going to take this terminal. So right now we don't have anything running or stopped. Now let's do something. Let's say docker run nginx will say this, and what's going to happen, your terminal is now, the docker is running, the nginx, a new container has started based on nginx image, and your terminal is occupied. Now if I run here, you can say the status is up 12 seconds. If I just do the control C, and if I run the exactly same command, it's now exited, which means that it is in the stop status. It is no longer running. And if you see the names here, it gave a name, automatic name. This name I did not give. So what we will be doing, we will be running a docker image in the detached mode, and we will also give a custom name to it so that our terminal is free. So to do that, let's do that. So what we will do, we will say docker run minus D, then we will give a name. So let's say nginx, and this will be test, let's say, and on what image we are going to say. So this becomes the name of your container, running container, and we are going to run it in the detached mode, which means the prompt will appear for us for the next set of commands, and it will be keep on running. So let's run this command, and you can see we got this information, and now the prompt is also back with us, which means we can run the next command. And if I go here and if I say docker ps minus a, you can see we have a running container with the name called nginx underscore test. This is the name that we gave here, and that is running here. So this was the automated name that was chosen, and this is the name which we provided, and that is also based on the nginx image. So, and that particular container is right now running. So if I show you what is running, docker ps, you can see this is running, and if I show you what is running and stopped, you can see that this is running, this is stopped. So ps minus a to give you what is running plus stopped, ps to give you only what is running. Now, so the next command is interactive, and I'll show you a different variation of this command. Instead of running the run minus it, we will use the exec. So now that this particular container is running, if you wanted to execute any command in this container, how do you do that? So what we can do, we can say docker run exec, sorry, not run, exec and interactive. So we will use interactive, and to which Docker? So to this Docker, and we want to launch a bash prompt. So you can see from root at Fedora, it got changed to root at 37 and a long number. So this, at this moment, we are inside the Nginx test container. So we are inside that particular container. If I do ls minus l, if I run this particular command, this is the output of, these are the files which are present within the container. These are not the files which are within my machine. These are files within the container because we are inside the container. So Docker exec allows us to run a command inside a running container. And interactive, so because we use interactive, we are attached. Now to come out of it, we will say exit, which will prompt back to root at Fedora. Now if I do ls minus l, these are the files from my local Fedora virtual machine. So these are the files. So I have come back out of the Docker environment. Now if you wanted to start, let's see what is running, and Docker ps will show us what is running. So you can see Nginx test is running. So now if I wanted to stop this, I could use the container ID or I could use the name. Both is fine. So let's show us Docker stop, and we can take this particular name and put it here. And now if I run Docker ps, you can see nothing is running. And if I run minus a, then you can see both are in the stop state. Both are in the stop state. Now, if I wanted to start it, let's run Docker start, which will start the Nginx test back. So let's say Docker ps again, and you can see the up 4 seconds, the Nginx test has started. So we have got, so stop will stop the container, start will start the container. And if you want to restart, you can use the restart command as well. So this is how you start and stop your container. If you wanted to get rid of a particular container, you can say docker rm container id. So let's say if you wanted to get rid of this particular, you can either use this or you can either use the name. So let's say I want to get rid of this container. So if I say docker rm, this one, and now if I do docker ps minus a, we should be having only one container which is in the running. There is no stopped container because the stopped container has been removed from this machine. So docker remove container id will remove the container from your machine. This is one of the best command. This particular command actually gives us a detailed info about the container. So if you want to know a lot more information, so right now we got this container running. So if I say docker inspect and the container name, then you can see it gives us all of this particular. So this is the information about your Docker, whether it is running, the maintainer, the network associated with it, volumes associated with it, host name of that machine, maintainer, etc., etc. So Docker inspect give us the detailed info about the container. The command is pretty simple. We just have to say docker inspect and either the container ID or the container name. One of the best command. The next command that we will see is docker logs. Now, if you want to see the logs of your container, let's clear this. If you want to see what's happening and something is not running right and you want to see the logs of that container, you can say docker logs, and these are the logs from your running container. So these are the logs from your running container. Now, the docker stats is also another interesting command. So it actually gives us the system-wide resource usage of our Docker. So how much Dockers are using. So you can see right now Nginx test is running. How much memory it has taken, what's the net IO, what's the block IO, how many process IDs associated. So you can see this. Now let's do something. Let's run another image from the, let's create another, maybe Docker test 2. Let's run this image, and once you do that, you can see another container came and it is also started monitoring. So the docker stats command will give you the real-time container information about the resource usage. So if you want to know how much your dockers are using, how much resources your dockers are using, go ahead and run docker stats command. The next command that we will see is copy a file from you can use the docker cp command to copy the file from container to host, or you can copy the file from your machine to the container. Both is possible. We will see only one because the other way is pretty similar. So what we are going to do, we are going to attach to, let's cancel this, and we are going to attach to our docker. So let's say docker exec interactive, and the name is nginx underscore test, and we are going to say we are going to run it in the bash. And now if I do ls minus l test file, let's see if we have got a test file. No such file or directory. We don't have any such file, test file or this. Now on my local machine, let's do the same. Let's see if we have got a file called test file, and yes, we got one file called test file. Let's take a look what's there in that particular file, and you can see we got hello world. Let's copy this particular file from our local machine into the running container. So to do that, what we will do, we will say docker copy, then we'll give the file name, then we will give the name of our container, and then where you want to copy. So let's successfully copied. So now if I run the same command, no such file or directory, we got the file. Let's see what's there in that particular file, and we should see hello world. So we successfully copied a file from our machine into the docker. We could do the reverse way around. We can copy a file from the docker to our local machine using docker cp. So docker cp allows us to copy file from container to host or host to container. Both ways is possible. The next command that we would like to see is docker network ls. Docker network ls will show us all the available networks on this machine. So let's see docker network ls, and this one you can see there are three networks. One is bridge, host, and none. So these are the, and if you wanted to create a new network, you can use docker network create command. If you wanted to see the docker volume ls, this will list all the volumes on this machine. Right now I don't have any volume, so this one will give us a blank output. If you had volumes, it will give us those volume, and if you wanted to create volume, you can use docker volume create. Now this is very interesting command. This particular command allows you to run a container with a mounted volume. So let's say you have a directory on your local machine, and that directory you want to expose that directory or the files within that directory to the container, then you can use docker run -v, the volume, local volume, and what mount point you want in the container. So you can do that. So let's try to see what are our mount points. So let's try to see. Let's go to, let's say ls minus l, and you can see we don't have any mount container. And anyway, I'm not going to use this. So let's create another docker container. So let's do one thing. Let's go to the mount point, make directory db. So I'm going to create a new folder. Let's go to that folder. It is completely empty. So right now I am inside a db folder and it is completely empty. Let's create one file called, let's create two files which will be blank 1 and 2. So right now there are two files. You can see these are 0 bytes 1 and 2. Let's create one more file called echo, let's say echo hello world, and let's say test file.txt. So right now we got three files, 1 and 2 are empty, and this has got tech hello world. We want to start a docker, and we want to expose this directory to the docker. So we should be able to see these files from within the docker. We don't want to copy them. We just want to access this file from the docker. So what we will be doing, so what we can do, we can run a docker. So let's say docker run in the detach mode. So we'll use detach mode -v. We will say db, which is the mount point on our local machine, and where you want to mount it. So let's say db mount in the docker. So this is the location in the docker, and we want to run, let's say we want to give a name to that, nginx mounted volume. So we can know that this is a mounted, this has got the mounted volume, and based on which image, Nginx image. So we have run a Docker in a detached mode with this directory mounted as this directory, and the name of the Docker is Nginx mounted. So let's verify whether we got that particular Docker here. So Docker PS, you can see we got Nginx mounted. Let's connect to that interactively. Docker exec minus interactive, name of the container, and we want to do the bash. Now let's verify what's there here. You can see we got a folder called dbmount, a mount point called dbmount. Let's go to that folder and let's verify. We got 3 files, 1 and 2, which are blank, and the test file, and let's verify what's present in that particular file, and we got hello world. So now these files are accessible to the Docker, and the Docker, if the Docker user has the right permission, will be able to modify this file. So this is the way you can expose your local machine files to the container. So run a container with a mounted volume. To use, you will use -v option, and we can specify what volume and what is the path in container. Now, if you want to build a Docker, you can use docker build command. This command will build the Docker image from the Docker files in the current directory. Now I don't have that one, so I won't be able to show you this. Docker image prune, this is very interesting, allows you to clean up unused images. These are the images which are basically dangling images. Dangling images are the ones which are not tagged or not referenced by any container. Now we don't have any such image. We don't have any such images. So if I run this particular command, nothing is going to happen. If you have dangling images, go ahead and run this. Now the next command is docker container prune. So let's see if we have any. Let's see what we have. So we are inside the Docker. So let's come out of the Docker. Let's see if we have any images which are in the stop state, and looks like everything is running, which means nothing will get cleaned up. So let's do one thing. Let's say docker stop Nginx test 2. Let's stop this. So now if I run, one image is in the stop state. It is in the existed state. What we will do, we will run a command called docker container prune, and we will say -f, otherwise it will prompt us yes or no. So to avoid that prompt, we are going to say -f. Once this particular command is done, it is going to get rid of this Nginx test 2. So this is the container prune, and I'll explain you this particular command in a minute. So let's run this. You can see one container has been deleted. Reclaim space, go back, and let's do docker ps -a. We should not have this container. We did not specify which container to get read, but it will delete the stopped container. So this container will no longer present. Let's run the same command and verify, and you can see we don't have this container. So docker container prune, when you stop a container, it isn't automatically removed unless you started with a rm flag. A stop container takes up disk space. To clean up this, you can use docker container prune. So this command will delete or remove all the stopped containers which are not being used. Docker system prune is the final command. This particular command is a shortcut that prunes images, containers, and networks. This will remove all stopped containers, all network not used by at least one container, all dangling images, unused build cache, and by default, this particular command will not get rid of the volumes. If you want to get rid of everything plus volume, you'll have to say docker system prune -- volume. Now I don't have anything like this. I don't have the undangling images and all that stuff. If I run this, it's not going to do anything. So let's try to see, take this command, and if I run this particular command, it's not going to do anything literally for us. So you can see, let's say y, and total reclaimed space is 0 because we don't have any such thing present on our system. So this was the short tutorial on the 20 essential Docker commands for beginners. With the demo, we saw multiple commands. Hope this particular tutorial will allow you to start your Docker journey and will give you some basic Docker commands where you can play with your Docker. Again, thank you for watching. If you did like the video, do subscribe to my channel. Do hit the like button. Thank you for watching and see you in next tutorial. Till then, bye bye.